Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the final round of the 2013 ESRA Riley Daytona Prototype Championship, powered by GT Omega Racing. Wolverton along with Yoni Backman as we are here at Silverstone for the final round of the season. And Yoni, as far as the track goes, it really is a great challenge for drivers in high downforce cars, as we're going to see here today.
Absolutely, especially with the Grand Prix layout with the tight chicanes. It's going to be fun to watch these high downforce cars going into the braking zones for passings.
And we've got ourselves about 3 minutes left of qualifying before drivers head themselves over to the grid to start the race. And so we are running at Silverstone here today, which is set in the heart of Northamptonshire. Track famous for being the first ever round of the Formula 1 World Championship back on May 13th, 1950. And today, drivers will be looking to settle scores as they try to get themselves as many points as possible in this, the 8th and final round of the Riley Daytona Prototype Championship. A couple of drivers who you want to look out for today, particularly David Ward. Got himself those issues that he's had the past couple of races. They are now sorted out. He looks to be back on form here today. But then, of course, you've got the Team GT drivers who have been absolutely dominant in this series so far. And they will be looking to once again get themselves to the top of the standing, Tony.
Yeah, and seems like it's not only the WCS races that seems to carry with like certain teams' dominance, or the INX Racing dominating the, help me out here, the McLaren Cup?
Yes.
Yeah, so it seems to be that the tradition carries on, and this time it's the Team GT setting the pace here with the Rileys.
David Ward is currently on provisional pole position with a time of 1 minute 40.045. He is on the racetrack right now in that number 69 car. Diego Comini in that number 21 Team GT car, the team that we're saying have been absolutely dominant this season. He's in second place, over 0.2 of a second back from David Ward right now. Andre Massario in the 89 car is currently scored in third again for Team GT. And then it's the Easy Works car, the number 340 car of Mick Claridge, who is in the fourth position. And then Thomas Van Boosel currently rounds out your top 5 as far as provisional qualifying goes. Let's have a look, though, at your current pole position sitter. That is David Ward. He's heading himself down to the average chicane, a little bit sideways there as the car was spinning ahead of him. Now, he's easily got time for one more lap. The people who might just be on their last lap now, the people who are in sector 1. So you've got people like Andre Branidi. This pretty much is going to be their last run. People like Peter Ridley, Mick Claridge, they're going to be right on the bottom as that checkered flag comes out. David Ward, he is working himself out of Luffield, and he's going to get set to do what will be his final lap of qualification. Right now, of course, he is about 0.2 of a second faster than Comini, but Comini is on the racetrack, and he will be looking to go faster in this, the dying moment of qualifying. Comini comes past Luffield right now. He'll come past start-finish line. Let's see whether Diego Comini is going to improve on that lap. I don't think he will, as he starts another lap. This will be his last lap. So Ward right now is about 10 seconds up the road on the racetrack from Comini, but nothing is settled right here, Yoni.
Definitely not, and it seems to be, it's at least my personal favorite is always in the qualifying, going into the going out at the very last minute and getting past, beating the clock by 20-30 seconds, just like David and Community did here, and then setting like a possible new pole position on the very last lap, which Diego has potential to do now. Of course, David is still there, so David can also improve.
Comini, no! Comini there just ran over a car who was going very slowly on the racing line. Now, that was Lorenzo Corbetti, and I'm not quite sure what happened there. He had a car go on the outside of him, which is Andrea D'Amicis, and then it almost looked as though, yeah, Corbetti actually turned into D'Amicis, and then in the same vein, slowed down on the racing line. Diego Comini had nowhere to go, and you turned very late into Stowe Corner. I have no idea what Corbetti was doing there at all.
Yeah, replay right up on the screen, and have a good look at it, but Yeah, considering it's a qualifying session and not a race, it's quite surprising to see that kind of a moves done by done in qualifying. Like, yeah, I haven't got the slightest idea what went on, what went through his mind there. I mean, that's basically the only fast line through that corner.
Bit of a mid-Ohio almost came into my mind, YOLO. But
Yep.
50 set checkered flag is out. So guys who are on a lap, this is their last lap. However, it does look as though that everyone has now completed a lap that they are on. So we now have our 18-car field to make up the final round of the 2013 Daytona Prototype ESRA Challenge, powered by GT Omega Racing. David Ward will be starting on pole position on his home track. Qualifying time, a 1 minute 40.045. He did abandon that final qualifying run as soon as he got word that Diego Comini was not going to improve on his time. Comini will start alongside him in row number 1, 2/10 of a second further back, however. So perhaps this might be the race where Team GT's recent dominance will come to an end. Andrea Massaia will start on the inside of row number 2. He'll have Mick Claridge alongside him. And of course, Mick Claridge had some bad luck. And the last time we saw him on Glacier TV a couple of weeks ago. Thomas Van Boostel on the inside of row number 3, Aaron Num alongside him. Peter Ridley on the inside of row number 4 with Doranio Rasciuti on the outside. Andy Goodison inside of row number 5 and Andranio Bernardi on the outside of row number 5. Then Nick Phillips, Theo Van Brunk, Andre Demikis, Fred Joseph, Tom Cable, Thomas Wittbach, Alan Wilson and Lorenzo Gobetti. They are your 18 drivers. Gobetti a full 7 seconds slower than David Ward. The rest of the field, however, separated by 4 seconds. And as we often see on a long, fast track like this, we have a big degree of separation, Yoni, between P1 and P17. However, we've got clusters of drivers who are very close together. For example, P1 through P5, very close together. P6 to about P8, very close together. Then P9 through to P11, very close together. And then the same when you look at P12 through to P14.
Yeah, it seems to be always the case that the so-called aliens, like the top 5 of in pretty much each high level race with full grids, it seems to be the case that they have the pace of their own, like through the race, pretty much an entire group with just a few cars naturally. But then the mid pack always seems to provide the most entertainment in pretty much any series you choose. The mid pack usually carries a lot closer gaps pace-wise and skill-wise. Then if you're talking about like aliens above the high-skilled racers and high-skilled racers to medium-skilled racers, the high-skilled usually tends to pack the biggest grid and the biggest pack.
So the cars currently working themselves on the pace lap behind the iRacing First safety car, working themselves through the final part of Beckett now into Chapel Corner. This is the part of the racetrack where you really need to have good momentum through the Maggots-Beckett complex, that left-hander through Chapel Corner. That is where you can really get good speed down this long hanger straightaway that run down to Stowe Corner. Of course, infamous for 2 things: the pass between Nigel Mansell and Riccardo Patrese, but also for 1999 when Michael Schumacher buried that Ferrari into the tyre barriers, breaking his legs and ending his championship charge for the year. And then of course, Shoney, Stowe Corner, arguably the easiest and best place to pass on the racetrack, but got to be careful for the cutback down into Club.
Yeah, and also I would say equally easy, if we can ever use the term easy when passing in the chicane. Yeah, the next chicane right up the road, I would say provides equally easy chance for overtaking. But however, the exit of the corner is a way different, so you have to have totally different approach to it. But still, it does provide like overtaking opportunity number 2.
So now they come out of Club Corner, a short run down to the Abbott chicane. Now passing isn't necessarily easy here, Yoni. However, if you can get yourself a good run through Club, and there are 100 different lines you can take through there, a bit like the final corner at Sebring. Some are faster than others, but not noticeably so. That run down to the Abbott chicane, especially for lap traffic, a good place to try and get that pass out of the way, because you do not want to be sat behind them before you come down into bridge.
Absolutely not, because traffic in the wrong place of the track can easily cost you like 1.5 seconds, and that's in a 45-minute race. That's not something you want to really want to lose against your race mates, especially if your partner just managed to deal with the traffic without a time loss.
Now they're into the complex section of the racetrack. They work themselves through into Brooklands and then, of course, Luffield, which marks the final corner of the lap. Luffield, a double apex right-hander, so difficult. You want to get on the power early. However, you've got to let the corner come to you, and you've got to allow yourself the right time to stamp on that throttle, because you do not want to run too wide. Get yourself a good run as you come through Woodcut to complete the lap. Pace car is in. The final round of the 2013 ESRA Riley Daytona Prototype Challenge here on the GlacierTV, about to get underway, and we are green. And it's a good start by David Ward, but Diego Comini's going to look to the outside of him as they come down into turn number 1. Ward goes a little bit sideways, Masayo slotting easily in behind in the second team GT car. McLeod is being left behind just a little bit. Those top 3 cars are very close together as they work themselves through. Maggot and Beckett for the first time. Ward a little bit sideways as he comes through. Beckett, can he get a good line through Chapel? The answer is yes.
Andy Guterson spins in the middle of Beckett's, and no damage seemed to be done to his race car, but he's at the back of the pack at 17th.
And Goodison actually came together with the 13 GT driver of Duranio Raschuti, and it turned him around. Nick Phillips got a tiny bit of contact, but it looks like he is going to be okay. Out front, it is still Ward from Diego Comini, Andre Massaria in 3rd, McLeod in 4th, Thomas Van Boosel in 5th. So they are currently running where they qualified in the top 5. In 6th is Aeronom, 7th Peter Ridley, 8th is Raschuti, then 9th, Andre Demikis from 13th. Has been able to get himself up into the top 10, Yoni.
Yeah, seemed like a good start, and most likely he took advantage of, he was one of the guys to take advantage of that Andy Guterson crash there. I'm pretty sure that's what gained him the 3 positions. So Andy Guterson spinning and passing the 2 guys in the process.
Ward working himself down through Brooklands into Luffield. He will complete lap number 1. Of course, it is a 45-minute timed race here today. 1 mandatory pit stop for all of these drivers as David Ward comes to complete lap number 1. The ticker will run across the top of your screen, and you see the gap there between himself and Diego Comini at the end of lap number 1. Well, that is about 1 second on the racetrack. Andre Masayo is a further 4/10 of a second back. And it does look as though for Comini, he had the chance on the outside of Cops Corner into turn number 1, the first lap of the race. Then he lost out quite a bit in this section of the racetrack, the Maggots Beckett's Chapel Complex. And let's have a look now. Again, it does look to see that Comini is a little bit closer, but he's not really able to gain any time on this longer hanger straightaway as they work themselves down into Stowe Corner. And he's at that point right now that he needs to be a couple of attempts closer to really get the draft. Although he does have his teammate Masayo behind him, if it comes down to the end of the race and he is close behind David Ward, those 2 teammates can work together. Yeah,
they can, and how they work together will be interesting to see. As you can see at the right-hand side of the screen, by the way, somebody goes very, very wide at the exit of Cops Corner, and I think it was number 33 of Adriano Brandani. No, it wasn't. Somebody went very wide and lost a few positions there. I can't seem to find what it is. That was a yellow car, but...
Yellow car, we'll get confirmation there. It's actually Fred Joseph there in the number 66 car.
Yeah,
and
correct.
That was down early on in that lap. And actually, there was a car ahead of him who looked as though he spun. Or got at least sideways, and he had to take evasive action. Yeah, it was Andrea Bernardi, who was involved in that incident on lap number 1, so might have a little bit of damage to his race car. Having a look, it doesn't look as though anything's too apparent for him at the moment, however, and he falls back a position on the racetrack to Fred Joseph, who started this race in the 14th position, is now up running in the 12th spot on the racetrack. Last time by, Comini did close up to the rear of David Ward by about a 10th of a second. Now this is that critical sector of the lap once again, and it does look as though he closes by about a car length and a half if he gets his run perfect. But then through Chapel, he doesn't get the momentum that Ward gets off the corner, and that allows Ward to keep a higher speed all the way down the hanger straightaway. In fact, I'm having a look at the top speed, and get this, David Ward's actually faster in a straight line than Comini is. So Comini's going to have his work cut out, even if he does get into the draft, to have any chance of making a pass here.
Yeah, and depending on his wing settings, aerodynamic package that he's running with the car, most likely a pretty high downforce package, but it also depends on the exit you get from the Beckett's. So if you fail that exit just a little bit, you go on the throttle slightly too late, that easily costs you 2 miles an hour at the end of the straight, and when you include that to the possibility of getting a draft from someone who beats you by that 2 miles an hour, that doesn't help you.
It doesn't help you indeed, and that is something that those two Team GT drivers are going to have to pay attention to. Everyone is still running in this race, by the way, at the rear of the field.
We got a first DNF right away. The 77 car, Doriano Ricciuti, it's reported DNF. Don't know what happened to him, but he's out of the race. And
spins again. Demetrius just spins again in that number 15 car. So something is not right there with Andre Demetrius in that number 15 car. He spun it there just before Brooklyn's corner. He's into the complex section of the racetrack. And Demetrius, he does get his car back onto the racetrack and get going again, but he is now scored towards the rear of this field. And to give you an update on that number 77 car of Doriano Ricciuti, of course, he had a little bit of rear fender damage, and then he blew his engine down at Stowe Corner, Yoni. We've seen that quite often in these cars, of course. They haven't got one of those anti-shift gearboxes. If you shift down too early, you get the engine revs too high, very sensitive, that engine's going to go bye-byes.
Rico Alatalo ring a bell at Brickyard Showdown?
Yep. So, Doriano Ricciuti is out of the race. His day is done. Engine failure for him in that number 77 car. Out front, David Ward has increased that gap to Diego Comini now up to 1.1 second on the racetrack. However, I said that Mick Claridge was falling back at the start of this race. Actually, he's still right there with the two Team GT drivers. He's lapping about a tenth of a second slower than Diego Comini. However, he's still within striking distance for the time being of Andre Massario. The gap between those two drivers right now is about 0.8 of a second on the racetrack. However, he has dropped Aero Nom, who's running in the 5th position. So if Mick Claridge, and in fact, is that one of the team? Yeah, the two Team G drivers actually fighting with each other. Massario tries to overlook down to the inside of Diego Comini there as they came through Bridge Corner. Wasn't able to complete the pass, however. And I think that Massario is thinking, well, you know, Comini, if you've not been able to get the job done, perhaps now it's my turn to do so. And he's also aware of the fact that Claridge is still haunting him in the background.
Yeah, it looks to be that Andre Massario is the fastest of the three cars right now, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to be as a plate of cheese in the middle of that sandwich. So, yeah, absolutely, he's easily within 0.2, 0.3 of a second from Diego through even the fastest corners. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure he has the race pace at the moment to try and deal with David Ward, who, by the way, is 1.7 seconds now ahead of Diego. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure Andrea has the interest to get past Diego for P2 and then go after the leader, since Diego is unable to do that. But first he has to get past Diego, and if the teammate is not with you, I mean, there to assist you in that effort, that's always a risky deal when you start fighting with your own teammates to get past, like, especially if you really want to get past.
For example, 1999 Austria between David Coulthard and Mika Hakkinen, or of course that famous incident in Turkey with the Red Bulls, Malaysia this year with the Red Bulls. But the important thing is that Diego Comini now has lost that draft to David Ward, so it's now Massario who's going to be getting the draft from Comini, and Comini's not going to be getting any straight line speed advantage at all down at that hangar straightaway. It'll be interesting actually to see what the top speed is between Comini and David Ward the next time they come past and that run down to Stowe Corner, to see exactly what they are hitting on the approach to Stowe Corner, because that will really show you the different downforce packages that these cars are running here today. Massario is actually now just about dropped Mick Claridge in that 4th position. Last time by, it was a 141.6 for Mick Claridge, a 141.6 for Massario.
Ooh. I was looking at P12, P13 fight on the TV, and Andy Gooderson, who were on board right now, almost rear-ended Andrea Diamikis there. Andrea was very sideways coming into the stadium section, and that was inch away from disaster for both cars.
And Demikis, of course, has been very loose all race long. He's had about 3 incidents already, and we'll have to keep an eye on him. I think that he has got some damage to that race car, or it's just running very loose again, a little bit sideways through Cop's corner. And now Goodison's perhaps going to try and go too wide through Maggot's corner. This is not the brave thing to do, Andy Goodison. And he does just get out of the gas. If he can get a good run through the Maggot's complex, he will be able then to get the job done on the exit of Chapel. But it does look as though Goodison takes a little bit too much there off the curb through the final part of Beckett, and that will leave him too far back to make any real impact down the hangar straightaway, and he will have to fall back in behind. And that's one of the things that I have seen all race long, Yoni, that some people are just trying too hard through Beckett, and I always say you always have to lose a little bit to gain a little bit. Yes, lose maybe a car length or so in Maggot, because then if you can get a good run through Chapel, you're not going to have to check up, and then you can put yourself on the power when you need to and get the momentum you need down the hangar straightaway.
Yeah, and the line that Andy Goodison took coming out of the first corner when he had a somewhat of a run approaching Maggots, that was a pretty stupid thing to do, because he didn't have a run to properly be too wide into Maggots, which goes onto the grass, by the way, coming out of the second chicane. But the smart thing would have actually been to just follow him. Follow Andre through that Maggots and Beckett's as close as possible, and then do not compromise without compromising his own race line. And he actually beeped in his own pool by just taking the alternate line into Maggots, and that basically ruined any chance he had of getting a good run out of Beckett's.
And he's now about a second back from Andre Demikis. Of course, he has had issues, Demikis, with a loose race car all race long, but perhaps that car is now coming to him in that number 15 car, because I'm having a look at his lap times, and he is about on pace for what he was doing at the start of this race. His fastest lap was on 1:43.295. As the car spinning, that is Fred Joseph there in the number 66 car, down again at Beckett. He caught himself the white line there, used too much of the curb in Beckett, the car over-rotated, and we always see that. The car starts sliding into him, you try to counter-steer, and that car just loses all front grip, and it's just going to slap to the right, and he spun himself around. Thankfully, he had the tarmac runoff area there, so he wasn't having to get that car stuck in the gravel. He is backing away, but a bit of a bruised ego for Fred Joseph, and he's now fallen behind this battle between Goodison and Demikis. I did say I was going to keep an eye out on the trap speed of David Ward and Diego Comini. In fact, the last time I saw them, Diego Comini is about a mile an hour faster on that run down Stowe corner, but it does look as though that David Ward is braking a little bit earlier there. Trap speed was 170 miles an hour for David Ward, 171 miles an hour for Diego Comini, and both of those drivers, I say, now are in clean air. The gap is hovering at about 1 second on the racetrack. Comini has been able to gain a little bit these last couple of laps. Last time by, Ward was a tenth of a second faster, which built the gap up to 1.1 seconds on the racetrack. However, now Comini has started to break away from Andrea Messiah. The gap is up between those two drivers at about 1 second on the racetrack as they work themselves back down towards Stowe corner once again. David Ward, let's see what his trap speed is going to be on that approach to Stowe corner. This time it's going to be 170 miles an hour for him. Diego Comini again 171 miles an hour, and Andre Messiah, of course, with 2 lots of draft, he's doing 172. But you have to say that these 3 drivers, they are now pretty evenly matched, and we have seen before in this series, as the fuel burns down and those tyres start going off just a tiny bit, some of these drivers have to adapt their driving styles, and David's not been that good at doing it this season.
Yeah, either adapt your driving style, or then simply drop pace and start braking earlier in order to get those tires cooled down again. But yeah, it looks as though David is the one, if someone out of those top 4 is having any problems, it seems to be David, because I think it was down up to 1.8 seconds at some stage in the early stages that he managed to pull the gap to Diego Comini, and now it's down to 1.126 seconds last time by, and now coming onto the line, it's actually way lower than 1.1. It's actually below 1 second this time around. As we get a confirmation, it's gonna be 0.917, so 2/10 of a second. Diego caught David Ward more there on that last lap, so I'm not sure if David's actually cooling his tires. I mean, pacing himself now so that Diego actually catches him because of that, or if he simply is trying too hard right now and he's actually burning his tires even more. Only time will tell.
Of course, one of the things that we have seen in the Riley Daytona Prototype Championship is that there are multiple options you can take when it comes to that one and only pit stop. All drivers have to make a pit stop in this series, and we have seen the strategies people have been using being widely varied. I think the best one of that was at Barber Motorsports Park, where you had some guys come in very early and some guys really take a very heavy first stint. I think here, because of the way that the track works, you'll probably see drivers trying to go into the race as late as possible. Lap traffic won't be a factor as much in this race as we've seen earlier on this season. Short tracks like Barber Motorsports Park, where it's a very small lap time, but the variance between drivers is often very high. Tracks also like Brands Hatch, again, a very short track, where it's so high speed that it's often very difficult to find a way past lap traffic. That really does play into the hands of the strategy. However, here, I think it's going to be a lot more simple. However, Comedy really is now all over the rear of David Ward. That now is going to be below half a second as they come past the stripe once again. And you see Comedy gets a better run out of Luffield. They work it through Woodcock, and then timing and scoring will update itself at the line. Last time by for David Ward, a 41.890, a 41.447 for Diego Comedy. The gap is exactly half a second on the racetrack, and Masario again dropping back from Diego Comedy just a little bit. And for David Ward, that was actually his slowest lap of the race, whereas Diego Comedy just seems to be getting faster and faster. And those 3 laps that he's just done, he's separated by just about 1/10 of a second on the racetrack. Incredible consistency as Ward is dropping off big time.
Yeah, that's what you call alien consistency, not only being able to do an incredible pace, but also maintain consistency with that pace. But now the problem is that now when he gets within that half a second from David Ward's car, now we're talking about dirty air. So the turbulence of David Ward's car is starting to have its effect on Diego's car control. So the Diego's car is pushing more into the corners, which means he has to try and turn the car with the throttle. So which means it's if you wish to maintain that gap that close by, it's going to start having its effect on your rear tires if you're really trying that hard to get that run.
And for David Ward, it's almost the opposite. You're seeing that car starting to get a little bit loose in the center of the corner, and that's where you really want to put the power down. It seems to be that for Ward, he's having to wait just a little bit to get that power on. And we'll get a perfect example of this right now as he works himself through Brooklyn and down into Luffield.
Comedy goes sideways and coming out of the penultimate corner. That was extreme oversteer. I mean, extremely countersteer. He had to do that there in order to avoid a spin. He went into that penultimate hairpin very, very aggressively, and you saw the steering inputs right there. As soon as he flipped his car to the left into the hairpin, after the turn-in, he had to pretty much do a full opposite lock in order to avoid a spin. That was I think, yeah, he smelled blood there, and he tried to go for the early kill, try to push it as hard as he can to get a run, and that's the price sometimes that you have to pay for putting that extra 1% of effort.
And that all comes back to the point that you mentioned just one moment ago, in that he's having to get on the power to turn that car just a little bit. Of course, the way that this track is, it's so flat, and the way that you have to kind of run wide into the corner, take a certain apex through it, and then drift wide again afterwards. It does seem to be that perhaps the air just got taken away from the front of that car, which then made it just a little bit loose. However, that did put the gap up from David Ward to Comedy back over 1 second, and of course Messiah right back on the rear of that number 21 car. We'll run through your top 10 very quickly. David Ward is leading the way as we approach half distance here. About 20 minutes of this race scored complete. He is leading by 1.1 seconds over Diego Comedy in that number 21 car. The 89 Team GT car of Andre Masari is running in the 3rd position. The 340 car of Mick Claridge in 4th. Aero Nom in the number 3 machine is running in the 5th position. Then it is Thomas Van Boosel, Peter Ridley, Nick Phillips, Theo Van Brunk, and Andy Goodison who round out your top 10. Just the one retiree.
And Andy Goodison doesn't fill the top 10 because now it's Theo Van de Brink in P10 right now, because Andy Goodison just took the position coming into that first chicane.
Just the one retiree of this race so far, and that is Dorenio Rasciuti, who had an engine failure as he tried to shift down a little bit too early down into Stowe Corner. He is now scored 7 laps down and out of the race. We are going to be getting ourselves into some lap traffic in about 3 or 4 laps time, my opinion.
Yeah, and just as you said, that only one DNF, there's 2 more. The 66 car of Fred Joseph and the 15 car of Andrea D'Amikis both seem to be out of the race, at least telemetry, showing the speed of 0.
Yep, and for D'Amikis, it's happened at Copse Corner, turn number 1, as he started lap number 11. Very similar sensation to what you get at turn number 1 of Watkins Glen, that if you just use too much of the curb, then it can really spin you out into the Armco barrier. But so for D'Amikis, he actually just pulled that car to the side of the racetrack and is now out of the race. For Fred Joseph, just see what happened to him. Again, this was on lap number 11. He got himself a little bit loose coming out of Stowe Corner. Again, use too much of the curb. Get yourself on that tyre on that painted white line. The car just never stopped rotating on him, Yoni. Smashed himself into the Armco barrier, and his day is done. This racetrack, you do not want to run those white lines at all.
No, definitely not, because not only you have the slippery grass waiting for you 8 inches away, but then you also have the track edge is not symmetrical, so it's very easy to actually catch that grass by accident when you try to follow those white lines. And the white line also carries leads right into the entrance at the beginning of the curves. So the curb can actually, especially in the fast corner like that, can really unsettle the car.
I tell you what, something's happened again to Comini, because he's fallen well back from the rear. The gap is now up to 2.4 seconds between himself and David Ward, as Ward gets himself past Lorenzo Corbetti. Now, of course, this is what he had to pay attention to earlier on. This is going to hurt him big time. Having to go all the way to the inside there through maggots. I was about to say that Lorenzo Corbetti, of course, he hurt Comini's chances claiming pole position due to that incident in qualifying. And you have to say that a slightly bad car placement, not looking in his rear view mirror. And we've got a run of Masario on Diego Comini, not quite close enough. And I do think that Masario isn't pushing the issue, but he is just pointing his car there, saying, look, if you're going to carry on making mistakes, I am going to try and slow it down the inside.
Yeah, and it's weird that even though they like how much, no matter how much teammates they might be, but I mean, it's just if you're here for team points, then basically holding back your teammate, it's just ridiculous at this point. And it's obvious that Andre has the pace, Diego doesn't. So looking at the last lap time, Diego did 1:43.3, which is 1.6 seconds off pace, and Andre is suffering behind Diego there every single lap.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what actually happened there. And it was down into the Abbey chicane by the look of it. And then also a second moment as he came down into the complex towards the end of the lap. It was mainly down at the Abbey chicane, however, where he lost all of that time. He ran wide and then had to arc the car late into the corner, which cost him about 1 second on the racetrack. And of course, Masayo is sticking behind him right now. And this will come down, of course, the championship points. Masayo isn't going to push the issue unless Comini makes a big mistake on the racetrack. I'm sure there's a little bit of, I wouldn't say team orders necessarily going on there, but Diego Comini is running a 21 car, shall we say. David Ward, however, has now eked that gap up to 3.3 seconds on the racetrack. Having a look further down the field, it does look as though everyone spread themselves out quite a bit. There's a 3-second gap between Aero Nom and Thomas Van Boesel, who are battling for 5th position on the racetrack. Then a 5-second gap backwards to Peter Ridley, who runs in 7th. Then it's a 12-second gap to Nick Phillips in 8th. A 6-second gap from Phillips to Goodison in that battle for PA, and Theo Van Brunk has already dropped a second behind Andy Goodison. He's been able to get himself past Nick Phillips because Phillips is on pit road.
Yep, first one to start a pit cycle. If we exclude the Fred Joseph behind him in the 66 car, who's taking a long pit visit because of the repairs he has to do. You can see the right front of the Fred Joseph's car behind him totally smashed in, and Nick Phillips so far on the jacks, getting 4 tires, 16.6 seconds, pretty decent stuff in my opinion.
Indeed, and we have seen some drivers in this series not take tyres. However, due to the fact that this has got so high cornering speeds at Silverstone, you will expect that you will lose so much time if you don't take tyres, that it's going to not balance itself out enough overall for you to be able to take the race victory, for example, between Ward and Comini. To give you an example of that, at the start of this race, David Ward was able to do lap times of 41.4, 41.2, 41.3, 41.4. They were his first 4 flying laps after that first lap, which of course is a little bit slower, because that's when you're getting up to speed. Now, he's doing lap times in the 1 minute 41.9s, 1 minute 42.1s. Diego Comini, he is now dropped his lap times back, and he's doing 1 minute 41.8 as well. Comini's tyres did last a little bit longer than David Ward, but now they are each running about half a second to a second slower than what they're doing at the start of this run, Yoni. And you'll be bearing that in mind as we get closer to this pit stop window, especially the amount of fuel these guys might have to take. Someone might try and take the risk and go out on old tyres. However, you're going to be about a second a lap slower. You've got to bear that in mind and do all the math and get your spotters working with you.
Yeah, and one option also, as we see by the way, Nick Phillips fighting with Thomas Swartback right now. Thomas is on those old tires, and Nick Phillips is behind him with fresh tires. But one thing worth of speculating a little bit is the fact that unlike oval cars, which usually take turns like switching the right side tires first, then the left side. But these cars actually change the front first and then the rear. So depending on the car setup of the car, if you have burned your front tires or rear tires, actually you might save quite a bit of time when only going for 2 tires. And in fact, I'm trying to I can't get a replay of that pit visit of Nick Phillips, but I'm wondering if the Jacks actually only gave him 2 tires, because 16.6 seconds is quite fast.
We'll have a look, and having a look to see, yeah, it does look as though he only took 2 tires. We'll try and get confirmation of this after the race to see what happened to him.
But Andy Goodison obviously didn't take any tires because his stop was full 10.0 seconds faster. He did a 6.6 second pit stop.
So that is what you're going to have to balance, whether or not you take tires and then you're going to be a second a lap faster, or you don't take tires. Yes, the tires will cool down a little bit, which might give you a little bit of advantage for 1 lap. But then, you are going to be struggling. Let's not forget, every lap these cars do at high speed, they really are going to be losing out. And, for example, David Ward, he's been able to get himself back into the 141s. However, as we get towards the closing stage of this race, these tyres could drop off dramatically. We might not be talking about half a second. We might be talking about 1.5, even 2 seconds towards the end of the race. And with lap traffic coming into play as well, if you're the leaders, you do not want to have a car that handles the way that you don't want it to. And that is being loose all over the place. Alan Wilson and Tom Cable, they are battling for P13 on the racetrack right now. Tom Cable's last lap time with 1 minute 45.9 is about a tenth of a second slower than Alan Wilson. They're battling towards the rear of the field, however being caught by your race leader, the number 69 Banshee Autosport car of David Ward. And again, because of the fact that this track is so long, these guys are not dealing with as much lap traffic as we've seen previously. And I think that is in some ways playing into the hands of these front runners a little bit, because of the fact that they can just manage themselves rather than having to deal with everything going on around them.
Yeah, and speaking of lap traffic, it doesn't even have to be lap traffic, because Andre Masiero is still behind Diego Comini, and he's way faster. Actually now, Diego is actually letting him pass in the main straight. Is that the case, or is he's defending against his teammate? I mean, I just can't seem to... I just cannot understand the reasoning behind this. And now they're actually going too wide in the, surely not in the maggots, but actually we're way past the midway point of the race right now. So Andrea Masiero could actually visit the pits right now, take 2 tires, take 4 tires, take just the fuel or whatever. He would still beat Diego Comini with the pits.
Indeed, yeah, and of course you can see the remaining time as again Masiero is going to go to the outside.
Diego
He's trying to do
right
it.
Now.
And that is exactly the same idea as what Mantle did on Patrese back in 1987. He dummied to the outside, then went to the inside, and of course, one move only.
Diego is actually defending right now against Mick Claridge, right? I just cannot understand the point of fighting that hard against their own teammates. I mean, they were single filing up until this point, and now all of a sudden Diego is way slower than these guys. I mean, I don't know what happened, if he actually broke a throttle pedal or something, because all of a sudden they were almost 3 wide going into that right-hander after the straight. That was just bizarre. I
think what it was is that, of course, let's not forget how hard Comini was battling to close up to the rear of David Ward at the start of this race. Ward's tyres went off earlier than Communi's, but I think that Comuni just tried pushing the issue too hard, and now the drop-off is much more severe. It's a 1 minute 42.4 last time by, as they're working on traffic. A car is on pit road. That is Alan Wilson in the 07 car. He's in to make his one and only pit stop as Comuni comes in, and he just dances around there, the outside of Alan Wilson. Comuni was in a hurry. He decided, I have to come in now, and he comes around Alan Wilson, almost runs into the rear of him, but Comuni is on pit road. And
despite that fighting with to get past Diego Comuni, Andrea Masiero's lap time still was 42.812 against 856 of David Ward, so he still caught him by 0.04 of a second. So now that Andrea has a clear track ahead of him, now we can really see what he's what he has in his tank. But we also have to remember that now Comuni did a 5.8 second pit stop, so Comuni did not take tires, only fuel. So if Comuni had taken any fresh tires, he would be significantly faster on the track right now than Masiero is. So now it becomes interesting of if David is unaware. I'm not sure if David's pit crew is signaling him how long the pit stops were, but if David is unaware of the situation, he might actually go for tires and just fail his race big time.
Indeed, and that is all of those things that we're going to have to bear for in the last 14 minutes of the championship. Let's keep an eye out, because David Ward is coming down towards Brooklands. He's going to make that left-hand turn. Then, of course, a double right-hander for Loffield to complete the lap. If he holds it too far to the inside, you'll know he's coming to pit road. And he is holding that car in just a little bit, but he's not coming in. Andre Masario, is he going to come in? The answer is no. So Masario thinks that he can carry on and do another lap. Mick Claridge has fallen back once again. He lost about 2 seconds there over the last couple of laps. And he is right now in that 340 car, 3 seconds now behind Andre Masario. But you have to say for Diego Comuni, what is he going to be able to do over the next couple of laps or so? Will this be enough to keep him ahead of Andre, well, to get him back ahead of Andre Masario? And also, will he be able to stay ahead of Mick Claridge and that 340 machine?
I would think that considering he only took fuel without any tires, I would definitely say that now he not only does he have the older tires, now he also has more fuel load than the top 5 right now has, who still haven't visited the pits. So I would definitely say give the disadvantage right now to Diego Comuni, since he didn't take fresh tires. So it seems whoever pits the latest and doesn't take tires, he's going to win this race.
Of course, as far as the championship goes, Masario is just 6 points behind Diego Comuni. So if Comuni burns up his tyres and he falls back too much, this could give the championship to Andre Masario in the last couple of laps of this race. David Ward again working himself through Bridge Corner. Update on retirees, of course, Doreni Washuti out of the race, Andrea D'Amicis out of the race. Fred Joseph is still sat on pit road. However, he will be classified as out of the race, as not completing 90% of the race distance. Got a good battle going on between Nick Phillips and Thomas Zakbark still, but Zakbark has made his pit stop and now he's fallen back down the field once again. But Phillips and Vint Brunk, they only separated by about 2 seconds on the racetrack, and Zakbark, having a look, he is slowly reeling in Vint Brunk. And Masario's in. This is critical now for the championship. It's also critical to see which of the two Team GT drivers is going to come home in what we think will be second position, unless, of course, David Ward makes a mistake in the last laps of this race. Masario, pit road speed is 45 miles an hour. He is into his pit box. He is not going to take any tyres either, so it's going to be fuel only. The number 89 Team GT car of Andrew Masario. The fuel jacket is out. He is back out and away. Where is Comuni? He's on the inside.
1.5 seconds.
It's close, but I think actually Masario might just get it. He will get it.
Yeah, he did get it, and that was exactly the distance. The difference, the Comuni didn't take tires, neither did Masiero. 6 seconds pit stop against 5.8 against 6 seconds. So Masiero actually had a 0.2 second slower pit stop. But that gap was exactly the gap that he gained with that pass just before Diego went into the pits. Plus, he did gained half a second extra with those 2 laps. So excellent strategy by Andrea there. Now it's just a question of when is David Ward going to pit, and is he going to take tires or not.
And also, don't discount Mick Claridge for the time being. Yes, he fell back about 3 seconds the last couple of laps, but if he can nail some good consistent laps and do a solid pit in, then there is a chance that he might yet be able to leapfrog Comini, and that will separate the two Team GT drivers. We'll only have one Team GT driver on the podium if that happens. Claridge could yet be the difference maker in this championship. He's not going to come in yet. He's going to stay out for another lap. And let's not forget, Yoni, every lap you stay out, you put less fuel into the car. The less fuel you put into the car, the shorter your pit stop's going to be.
Absolutely, and that is exactly why if you're not gonna go for fresh tires, I'm surprised actually how many people decided to pit that early. Especially, well, Diego, I can understand because, well, I can understand in the sense that he would have taken fresh tires, but I cannot understand why he was first in trouble and then he pitted early after being passed, and then he didn't even take fresh tires. So, but yeah, if his fuel ran out, then I can understand it, but. Lots of, as you said, quite a variety of different strategies we're seeing here, but yeah, it might be a personal preference that some drivers are uncomfortable with the car setup when you're dealing with the higher fuel loads. Some of them are uncomfortable with lower fuel loads, but yeah, it's interesting to see this much variety with the different strategies.
So we are down less than 10 minutes to go on the play clock. David Ward. He has not yet pitted. He's got Thomas Vutbach ahead of him, who has scored the last car on the lead lap in the number 71 car. He's 1 minute 38 seconds behind the race leader. It does look as though that Ward won't catch him until the end of this lap. He might decide to come on pit road this time by. We'll keep an eye out on that. Mick Claridge, of course, is still circulating on the racetrack. He has not made a pit stop. Aero Nom, he also has not yet made a pit stop. Peter Ridley hasn't yet made a pit stop. So, 5th place, Andrew Messiah and David Ward is on pit road, and also Vutbach ahead of him. That might have held up Ward just a little bit. We'll keep an eye out on that as they're both down to 45 miles an hour. And David Ward is on to pit road. As I said, Aeronom hasn't pitted yet. Peter Ridley hasn't pitted yet. Let's see if any of those cars come in. Mick Claridge stays out. He will assume the race lead for the time being. Aeronom is on pit road. Is Peter Ridley going to come in as well? The answer is going to be no. Peter Ridley stays out for another lap. But David Ward, that 69 Banshee Autosport car, is on pit road.
Long pit stop. Long pit stop. 8.7 seconds. Looks like he took tires. He actually lost the lead of the race.
Yeah, he's lost the lead to Andre Messiah. He might even come out behind the other Team GT car. The answer is going to be yes. He is going to fall out behind Comini as well.
Yeah.
5 laps. David Ward now has to, if he has taken tyres, which we think he has, he is going to have to push it now. He's going to have fresh tyres, not French tyres, fresh tyres, but he's going to have to really push.
Yeah, not only push, but he has to get past at least 2 cars. And Mick Claridge is also in the equation because now David Ward is 2.8 seconds behind Andrea Masiero, and looking at Mick Claridge was 2.7 seconds behind Andrea Masiero before Andrea went into the pits. So if actually if Mick Claridge has been able to get a clean track ahead of him and some fresh fast laps, he also might be able to get past David Ward there. And looking at David Ward's pit time, I would pretty much bet that he took only the tires that were most consumed, which would be either the front pair or the rear pair. So if it's a rear pair and he was struggling from rear end grip, now he, like 2-3 laps straight, he's going to have tons of grip coming out of the corners. But yep, it's usually the famous routine that catching a car is one thing, passing is quite another. So especially on this track, it's going to be interesting to see where and when is David going to pull those maneuvers, as we have someone pulling into the pits.
That'll probably be Peter Ridley. Indeed. Correct. It is, as he is in the Nexus Esports car to make his one and only pit stop. I'll take that back. It's the Danielson Motorsports car. But Peter Ridley and that number 9 machine is in. Of course, the event Brunk is in.
Claridge is also in, by the way.
Yeah, Claridge is in and out. Where he comes out, that is going to be behind David Ward. So Claridge lost a lot there in that sequence of pit stops.
Yeah, he had extremely bad traffic ahead of him a few laps ago. He did a 143s a few laps straight. So, oh, he goes very sideways. Claridge goes very over the grass coming out of Beckett's there. Amazingly kept the car straight, but that was like 8 out of 10 drivers would have flown rear end into the wall over there. So that was a good save.
Indeed, it was. And just having a look, and of course, now David Ward needs to keep an eye out on his lap times. Won't get any confirmation just yet until the next time. He's really pushing because that car is very loose, and I don't think actually that Ward's going to have enough time to catch and pass these two drivers. He isn't close enough right now.
Nope.
He really isn't close enough right now, and I don't think lap traffic is going to be that important here either. Of course, you've got Tom Cable, who is holding up Diego Comedy just a little bit. In fact, he's going to have to try and get past before they come into bridge. Indeed, he does at the very, very last second. Now he's going to have to bear his head out for David Ward, because he is going to be charging sideways all over the place there for that 69 machine, as he'll now come down to the inside through Brooklands. He'll be able to get clear, now take his preferred line into Luffield. But we need to keep an eye out on these lap times. We'll get confirmation the next time they come past the straight. Andrew Masayo in the number 89 Team GT car. His lap time as he comes past the start-finish line is a 141.9. Diego Comedy a 142.3. David Ward a 142.8.
Yeah, that's a slow pace considering he had a slowest pit stop by 3 seconds. So if I'm starting to question whether he took tires or not. But if he didn't take tires, why on earth did he have a 9-second pit stop?
Unless he put too much fuel in.
David goes sideways. David spins and coming out of Beckett's just a previous lap. Mick Claridge did the same, but David Ward did the same, but he didn't manage to save it. And Mick Claridge says thank you very much, and P3 is his.
Indeed it is. So David Ward, his day is going from bad to worse. He was really pushing it to try and close up to the rear of those two Team GT cars. And from nowhere, all of a sudden, Andrew Masario is leading this race in the Team GT car. Diego Comedy is one position back. Now, as far as the championship goes, if Masario has a clean race and Comedy doesn't, Masario will be the champion. If Masario and Comedy don't each have a clean race, or they both have a clean race, then Comedy will be the champion by 1 point come the end of this race. So there is still all to play for here at Silverstone. For David Ward, though, it just didn't go right for him from that pit stop, as Claridge is a little bit sideways. David Ward is still about within 1.5 seconds of Claridge, so he might be able to get that position back, get himself back onto the podium, but it's all gone crazy in the last 4 laps of this race.
Yeah, the pit stop, the heavy fuel load with old tires seems to take its toll, especially if you're not comfortable with the setup and you're not comfortable with driving the slippery tires with the heavier fuel load. That's what you're gonna get. And yeah, 2 laps and 1 nearly spin and 1 full spin. Let's hope that it stops there. We don't want to see like championships being decided with last lap spins. Indeed,
and as I say, run through your top 10. We'll run through your top 10 with 3 minutes left on the play clock. By the way, we are going to have 2 laps, I think, left in this race. 2 laps left of the race at the line. So, Andrew Masayo, your race leader, 2.2 seconds, a gap between himself and Diego Comedy. 3rd place, Mick Claridge in the number 340 car. He is 7 seconds back, however, from Diego Comedy. He lost out big time on that sequence of pit stops and is running very slowly right now. A 143.1, his last lap. David Ward, he, of course, had that spin down at Beckett in the previous lap, and that now puts him from 1st, where he led every lap before pit stops, now down to 4th. He spins it again. David Ward into the barriers. He is out of the race.
Whoa. What can you say? You try too hard. You try hard. You're gonna spin. You try harder. That's what happens. So, wow. I did not expect that from David Ward.
And the number 69 car, who normally is so calm and collected behind this race car, he has a moment as he was working himself on lap number 24.
He's cut grass on the brake zone.
Yep. So easy to do, though.
Indeed. We could actually ask him what happened.
Indeed, and David, he is run all the way up to the virtual commentary box. David, you were leading this race. Something went wrong in pit stops. You tried pushing. You had a spin down at Beckett, and then it all went wrong for you down at Club Corner.
Yeah, we ended up putting too much fuel in the car. I'm not sure why. And then I found myself in 3rd, and I was like, oh, I've really got to push now. And you can't, because those guys were on lower fuel, we were heavier fuel, and then it was a losing battle. But overall, apart from the strategy mess up, Yeah, really, really good. So roll on next season. We just need to sort out the strategy, and then we'll be all right.
Sort out the strategy indeed, and it's kind of not gone well for you this season. Of course, you had hardware issues earlier on. Now you have the strategy issues, but we'll talk to you a little bit more about this after the race. We have 1 minute remaining on the play clock. It's going to be close. I think they're just going to get one more lap in. It's going to be mighty close, though.
No, it's not going to be close because Maziero is approaching the last chicane, so I think it's going to be 20-something seconds until when he beats the clock, so one more lap.
One more lap, and of course, because this is a very long racetrack, if they did put a tiny bit too little fuel in, that could be catastrophic on this, the final lap we're going to be approaching of this season. So we will run through your top 10 properly now. It's Masayo from Comini, from Claridge, from Nom, from Busso, from Ridley, from Goodison, from Nick Phillips, from Andre Bernardi. They are your top 10 drivers as we're getting ready to get the white flag. It will be the final lap of the 2013 ESRA Riley Daytona Prototype Challenge powered by GT Omega Racing, and it's actually going to be 15 seconds left on the play clock as Masayo takes the white flag. One more lap to go. That last time by Diego Comini, well, he was a tenth of a second faster, but nowhere near close enough unless Masayo makes a mistake on this, the final lap of the race. And by the way, Yoni, I was almost there with tyres. They're not French tyres, they're German tyres, Continental.
Yeah, even. Thomas Busso still has a good chance of getting the P3 away from Aeronome. Last lap there, coming out of turn number 1, approaching Maggots, only 0.5 of a second between them. So last lap around a full half a second faster was Thomas Van Bussel than Aeronome in front of him. So this could be an interesting fight in the end.
Yeah, however, Van Bussel isn't close enough as they work themselves down the hangar straight away once again. We'll keep an eye out on the straight line speed for Aeronom, see if he's having to save a little bit of fuel. He's easily up to 170 miles an hour though, so no issues for him. And of course, if you are going to save fuel, he goes a little bit wide though down at Slow Corner. This is going to allow Van Bussel to close up on that run down to Club Corner. He won't be close enough, but he might try and slow it down the inside. No, he won't. But Aeronom under a degree of pressure right now from the number 90 car of Thomas Van Bussel in the last half the lap of this race. Andre Masayo through Bridge Corner. He's got himself just 4 corners left to go as he takes the first of them. The first of these left-handers. He'll then come through Brooklands, and then he'll have just Loffield and Woodcott to go. Andre Masayo has done everything he needs to do to try and claim himself the championship here at Silverstone. He was able to get past Diego Comini. He was able to inherit the race lead. Andre Masayo in the number 89 Team GT car once again scores a victory for Team GT here in the ESRA Riley Daytona Prototype powered by GT Omega Racing. Diego Comini comes home in 2nd position, Mick Cloud comes home in 3rd, and it looks as though Aeronom is just about able to hold off Thomas Van Bussel. Nom claims 4th, and Van Bussel claims the 5th position in this race, Joni.
Yeah, strong effort from Van Bussel in the end, but wasn't quite enough. But well deserved top 3 there for the top 3. Was almost looked at the start of the race that David is going to pull away, and yeah, then the strategy backfired as we heard, and then the very unfortunate touch in the grass. But yeah, they played their cards right and got the top 3.
And now it is going to be a case of waiting for Masayo to see whether or not he is going to be able to win this championship. But Peter Ridley, by the way, he comes home in the 6th position. Andy Goodison, he's just going past the start-finish line right now. He will come home in the 7th spot. The last 2 guys scored on the league lap, Nick Phillips and Andre Bernardi. They are just completing their laps as well. But, Yoni, as soon as pit stop started, this race went crazy.
Yeah, no kidding. Starting from weird pit times. I mean, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people decided to take tires. So 10+ seconds adding to their time, which shows in the final race results because they were like 27 seconds apart from the guys who only took fuel, and then those who took fuel suffered from spins, slides, etc. So yeah, indeed it went crazy. But before that, it was kind of on a silent mode.
It was a little bit. I'd say that's one of the issues as well here. because you got such high cornering speeds, the drag, aerodynamic drag, especially in Sector 1, really comes into play. And we did see that quite a lot. Cars struggling to stay in the tow through out of Copse Corner, through Maggots, through Beckett, and through Chapel. No one really able to make a pass, but what a great pass on Massario on Comedy. Really reminiscent on that famous Nigel Mansell, Riccardo Patrese pass. Darted to the outside, tried to dummy Comedy to the outside, then slotted it down to the inside of Stowe Corner, essentially giving him the race victory.
Yeah, I'm still curious on what exactly caused Diego Comini to be that slow, because first, I mean, he was pretty much through the whole race, he was keeping Andrea behind him, but then all of a sudden, like, he was not that far off the pace, but all of a sudden, on that lap, he failed not only the Maggots, he failed Beckett's, and then he failed that straightaway as well, so which caused them to go almost 3 wide into that next braking. So I would be interested to hear what caused Diego to be that slow during that straight.
However, we can now confirm that it is actually Diego Comini who wins the championship. He will win it by 1 point there over Andre Massario. That all comes down to the way the point system works and the bonus points. You get 2 bonus points if you complete the race without any incidents. For those of you who are new to iRacing, what that means, an incident point is when you either go off track or have car-to-car contact. Neither of those drivers had any incidents, and therefore they both get 2 bonus points. That means that Diego Comini wins the championship by 1 point. To run through your final race results, in a time of 46 minutes and 27 seconds, Andre Massario takes race victory, but it's not enough to give him the championship. Diego Comini comes home in second, and he is your champion for this season. Mick Claridge, he rounds out your podium in third. Aeronom in fourth, Thomas Van Boosel in fifth. Peter Ridley 6th, Andy Goodison in 7th, Nick Phillips in 8th, Andre Brunady in 9th, Tom Cable rounds out your top 10. Rest results coming up on your screen momentarily. Gonna have a quick chat once again to David Ward. And David, talk about next season. And as I was saying to you earlier, it kind of, season didn't go your way from really the get-go. Unfortunate luck at the start of the season. Then, of course, you had your hardware issues. And then today's strategy just didn't play out for you.
And David is speechless.
Do you want to pretend to be David?
I can't.
No worries. In that case,
I can imitate Kimi Räikkönen, but no
Go
way
on,
I
then.
can imitate David Ward. No, I don't.
In that case, unfortunately, that is all we have time for. Just to confirm your final championship standings, it is Diego Comini who does take home the championship by our unofficial standings by 1 point over Andre Massario. So very close at the end. The big battle would be, of course, for third position. That would be between Thomas Van Boosel, David Ward, and Aero Nom. It does look as though that Van Boosel is going to win that battle, and he will get himself third place in the championship. That is all we have time for. Thank you very much to all of you who have taken part and or watched the ESRA Riley Daytona Prototype Championship powered by GT Omega Racing. You have to say, Yoni, a good race overall.
Indeed, it was, but I'm not quite sure how it would be any more interesting. I was eating my ice cream when watching this race, so yeah, looking toward the next season.
So, after all is said and done, it is Diego Comini who is your 2013 Riley Daytona Prototype Champion. Andre Massario, he tried so hard and he got so far, but in the end, it didn't matter for him. Even though he took victory, he fell short by just 1 point in the championship. Once again, thank you very much to everyone who took part or tuned in to watch the ESRA Riley Daytona Prototype Championship here on GlacierTV. Don't forget, every Friday on GlacierTV, 4 PM Eastern Time, it's the Will and Dave Show. The funniest comedy you will hear in sim racing is every single week. It is live and exclusive on GlacierTV. Myself, Will Vincent, and from Yoni Backman, thank you very much. This has been a GlacierTV presentation of the ESRA European Sim Racing Association Riley Daytona Prototype Championship. We will talk to you all next time.